Gi-Hun will become the new frontman. It's a theory that has everyone stressed, and as the new trailer came out recently, we have more and more evidence that supports this crazy theory. But before we dive into it, we need to go over the entire story of Gi-Hun and the frontman to understand how we got here, starting with the frontman. Protecting and serving. Before he was the Big Daddy frontman, Hwang In-ho lived a life built entirely on solid principles, law and order. Think about him graduating from police university, eager and committed to make a positive change in the world. Joining the respected Seoul Metropolitan Police Agency in 2001 wasn't just taking a job for him, it was answering a call to serve and contribute to the community. Over a period of 14 intense years, he distinguished himself, earning various decorations and incredible respect as a talented detective who got results. This wasn't just routine work for In-ho. He instead showed himself to be a sharp, dedicated individual, someone deeply invested in justice and order, with a bright future in law enforcement if things kept going his way. His dedication went beyond his professional life. Family was also clearly very important to him. His younger half-brother, Hwang Jun-ho, was extremely close to him, to the point that during their youth, In-ho gave him one of his kidneys, which he would have died without.
너 형은 자기 콩팥까지 떼서 널 살려줬는데 나는 네 형수가 아파서 힘들어할 때 해준 게 하나도 없다.
That's an incredible sacrifice, revealing a deep level of love and selflessness early in his life. This was the man Hwang In-ho was, defined by his duty to the law, his integrity, and his profound commitment to his family. Life-changing tragedy, but life can be incredibly cruel, and the foundations of In-ho's idealistic world were about to be shattered. While happily awaiting the birth of their first child, devastating news reached him and his wife. His wife was diagnosed with severe liver cirrhosis, so far progressed that an urgent surgery was needed to keep her life intact. Their joy turned instantly to fear and depression. The doctor laid out a difficult choice to either end the pregnancy to save his wife, or risk both their lives carrying the child to full term. His wife chose her child's chance at life, relying on In-ho to gather enough money for the life-saving operation. Suddenly, he faced an impossible situation that no amount of police training would help him with. His wife needed a liver transplant, and fast, but the cost was insanely high, far beyond what an honest detective could afford, even at the upper echelon. Imagine the desperation growing day by day, the helplessness of watching his wife decline, knowing the solution was just out of reach the whole time. He was a man sworn to protect, but felt utterly powerless to save his own family by living within the rules. The pressure was unbearable, slowly chipping away at his mental health, pitting his principles against his love for his family. Pushed to the absolute limit with time running out and legitimate options exhausted, In-ho made a choice that would forever change him. He stepped outside the law he had sworn to uphold, borrowing the money he needed from a known criminal he'd run into before. It was an act of desperation, not greed, driven by the urgent need to save his wife and child. But the system he served saw only the transgression. When the loan was discovered by his higher-ups at the office, it was misinterpreted as taking a bribe to keep crimes secret, without any formal investigation taking place. This single act of the police failing to do their due diligence would change In-ho's outlook on life forever. The context, the desperation, his 14 years of spotless service, and even protocol, none of it mattered to his superiors anymore. He was instantly fired, disgraced, and looked down upon. The sense of betrayal by the institution he had poured his life into, paired with the shock of his desperate situation, must have been devastating. He wasn't just out of a job, he felt cast aside by the very concept of justice he believed in, left with nothing but the impending tragedy at home, into the abyss. Broken, stripped of his identity and his faith in the system, In-ho was vulnerable and opened himself to anything that would save his wife. It was then that the invitation arrived, offering vast wealth for playing some simple games. With nothing left to lose, his reputation ruined, his family's fate seemingly sealed, he accepted. In 2015, the decorated detective Hwang In-ho vanished, replaced by player 132 in the brutal 28th Squid Game. He entered that deadly competition not as himself, but as a hollowed version of himself, driven only by the fading hope of saving his family, with nothing else mattering. He survived the horrific games, likely doing things that would have disgusted his former self, his focus solely on the prize money. Using his sharp mind and resilience, now fueled by desperation, he emerged as the sole winner, meaning he had taken at least one life in the final match, but the victory didn't feel good for very long. He had the money, however, it was too late, as his wife and unborn child had already died by the time he got out. The fortune he had fought, killed, and sacrificed his soul for was meaningless now. It couldn't reverse time. It couldn't heal his loss. The win wasn't a true victory. It was the final confirmation that everything he valued in life was gone. The prize was just a pile of currency stained with blood and grief. In the dark levels of his depression, his old identity was obliterated. He was in a sea of anger and disbelief. This was when Oh Il-nam, the game's creator, approached him. Il-nam likely saw more than just a winner. Maybe he recognized a man severely wronged by the outside world, someone who understood its inherent unfairness and saw the opportunity to give him a sense of justice. He offered In-ho a new role, a position of power within the games. In-ho accepted without hesitation. Maybe it was nihilism that drove him to do this, a belief that nothing mattered anymore. Maybe it was a twisted form of revenge against the world that had failed him. Or maybe in his broken mind, he came to believe the game's brutal rules were a purer form of justice than the flawed system with the cops. Whatever the reason, it's here that the final transformation began. He buried Hwang In-ho, the detective, brother, and son. He learned how to run the complex operations, the rules, and the cold philosophy of the Squid Games. He adopted the stoic personality, the authoritative voice, and the ruthless efficiency of Il-nam. His brilliant analytical skills, once used to catch criminals, were used to manage the games, ensuring the efficient flow of death and desperation to entertain the wealthy VIPs. Putting on the black mask became the final step, erasing his face, his past, creating the front daddy, a new face wielding absolute control, the total opposite of who he once was. Cracks in the mask. Even as the seemingly emotionless frontman, the past sometimes bleeds through, revealing the man beneath the mask. Take his execution of the guard who helped a player cheat. His stated reason isn't the illegal organ selling happening on the side, which he dismisses, but the violation of the game's equality. His words about giving those failed by the outside world one last chance to fight fair resonate with his own painful experience with his family. It sounds less like a principle and more like the justification of someone imposing their own harsh fairness on a world they feel cheated them. The most intense confrontation between his past and present is on the cliff with his brother, Gi-Hun. His brother, still a police officer embodying the law and following his brother's legacy, serves as a total mirror of In-ho's former life. When In-ho removes his mask, it's a heartbreaking moment for his brother. Gi-Hun's refusal to join him is a showcase of In-ho's dark path, being so evil that his own brother would reject him. In-ho's response, shooting his own brother, the one he'd given a kidney to.
Stop right there! Who the hell are you? Let's go. Brother.
At first seems harsh, but might actually show even more cracks in the mask. The shot is intentionally non-fatal, and he even arranges for his brother to receive help to make his survival certain. Was this an act of mercy? An unpaid debt now repaid? A moment of weakness where he failed to fully sever that bond? It's complicated, but it leaves Gi-Hun alive, wounded physically, while In-ho is likely wounded mentally. Years later, as the established leader, his actions in the 2024 games show that in some ways, his transformation is irreversible. He infiltrates the game as player 001, not out of need, but out of strategy and control. He flawlessly fakes empathy, gains trust, and manipulates his teammates like Gi-Hun, all while planning their downfall from the very start. This level of long-term deceit is far away from the actions of a detective who valued truth. His betrayal during the rebellion is the biggest moment where, if there were some humanity, he might have helped Gi-Hun. After fighting alongside them, he coldly murders players 047 and 015, using their last moments to deceive G-Money over the radio. This isn't just violence, it's psychological cruelty designed to hurt the man, honed by years of overseeing the games and learning what makes people suffer most. The final brutal act we see is the execution of Jung-bae, Gi-Hun's final close friend in the messed up world he now lives in. After crushing the rebellion, In-ho confronts the captured Gi-Hun and Jung-bae. As Gi-Hun watches in agony, In-ho shoots Jung-bae without hesitation.
항복.
456번. 영웅놀이는 재밌었나? 잘 봐. 네 영웅놀이의 결과가 어떤 건지.
기훈아.
This could be a symbol of In-ho trying to execute his past life, engaging in deeper acts of torture so that he doesn't fall back into a lighter persona. What lies ahead? Now, the front daddy stands as the powerful and feared leader of the Squid Games, but loose ends remain, meaning there could be more we haven't seen yet. His brother, Gi-Hun, is alive and knows the truth. Gi-Hun is determined to stop the games and knows In-ho is the key, even though he doesn't have any power right now. This sets the stage for some really cool potential stories for the frontman in Season 3. One possibility, although the least likely, is a path towards some form of redemption. Could the overwhelming guilt from shooting Gi-Hun, combined with witnessing G-Money's relentless humanity, eventually crack his fortified and evil mind? It seems unlikely given how far he's gone at this point, but maybe one last confrontation with his past, through his brother, could force a collapse of the frontman persona. He might even try to dismantle the system from within, as a final complex act which turns his role into one of sabotage and redemption. Another theory is that his huge focus on Gi-Hun suggests something else. Is he studying an anomaly? Someone who refuses to crack like everybody else? Or could he be trying to mold Gi-Hun to become a potential successor? Seeing Gi-Hun as someone who understands the game's darkness yet survived with some morals still intact might appeal to the frontman, seeing an opportunity to leave the games by leading somebody else to his position. Grooming Gi-Hun to take over could be In-ho's exit strategy, a way to finally lay down the burden he took up after his own tragedies in life. But the most straightforward option is continued reign over the games, unstoppable and purely evil. In-ho has shown absolute dedication to the game so far, unwilling to walk away even for his own family. He might focus on building up his power even more, making the organization even more deadly and secretive, maybe even rising to a power level above the VIPs that he clearly hates under that mask of his. His future future would be based around the conflict with G-Money and the inevitable return of Junho, forcing him deeper into ruthlessness and mercilessness to protect his empire. But hovering over all these possibilities is the unavoidable matchup with his brother. Junho survived, he knows all the secrets, and he's changed by his experiences, wanting to resolve this thing at any cost. When they meet again, will it be a fight to the death? Will In-ho attempt once more to bring Junho into his world, or vice versa? Or could their meeting end in a way no one expects, maybe forcing In-ho into a final and difficult choice between his past and present? With his brother facing execution by a VIP, there are so many possibilities. Somehow, Gi-Hun's story is not too different than that from the Frontman. Squid Game is all about Seong Gi-Hun and his quest to free himself from his burden. From his financial setbacks to his moral journey towards taking down the games, this is the full story of Gi-Hun, the origins of a desperate man. Seong Gi-Hun's story begins in the cramped streets of Sangmun-dong, a working-class neighborhood where just making it to the next day counted as success. He was an ordinary guy with a smile who managed to graduate from school and land a stable job at Dragon Motors, working on the assembly line fastening car doors. Then the Asian financial crisis hit in the late 90s, and everything fell apart. Factories closed, pink slips were everywhere, and our main man lost his job. When his severance ran out, pride pushed him to try something new. First came a fried chicken shop that tanked under rising costs and fewer customers. Then he formed a snack bar that broke down almost immediately. Debt piled up faster than he could handle, and loan sharks started circling. One night, after getting beaten up pretty bad, they made him sign a contract offering his body parts as collateral if he missed another payment.
Wait a minute.
Let me see. Up, come on. Let me see. Poor thing. If you don't pay it off by next month, I'll take one of your kidneys. And then, after that, I'll take one of your eyes, okay? That's it, right there.
Meanwhile, all the good things in his life were slipping away. His young daughter Ga-young, his aging mother with untreated diabetes, and even his dignity were all drifting further from his reach. He was so desperate that he even gambled away birthday money meant for his kid. Entering the game, after a minor win at the horse track was stolen by Se-byuk, a North Korean defector who pickpocketed him while he was running from angry loan sharks. The next game, Tug of War, put players on a steel platform suspended high above the ground. Gi-Hun's team of weaklings, consisting of the elderly Il-nam, frail Se-byuk, and untrained Ali, faced a squad of much stronger characters. It came down to two spur of everything changed for Gi-Hun. Tired and hopeless on a subway platform, he met a well-dressed stranger playing dakji. For every loss, Gi-Hun got slapped across the face. For every win, he'd get 100,000 won. After dozens of painful losses, he finally won, and the man gave him a simple business card with simple symbols, telling him to call the number if he wanted to win more money. Desperation won over skepticism. Our guy called, followed the instructions, then woke up in a massive dormitory with hundreds of bunk beds and even more desperate faces. 456 players in identical green tracksuits, silent guards in pink jumpsuits, and a giant glass piggy bank hanging above them, promising billions if they survived 6 simple games. What they didn't know was that being eliminated from these games actually meant death. Games to die for. The first game was red light, green light. Within minutes, hundreds were slaughtered, their blood soaking into the playground dirt. Ali Abdul, a migrant worker as desperate for cash as anyone else, caught Gi-Hun's jacket just as he stumbled, saving his life purely on instinct. In shock and trembling, our hero made it through the finish line, even if just barely.
I love you.
Back inside, they learned about Clause 3 of the contract. A majority vote could end the games. Horrified by the events of the first round, the players voted. The outcome came down to a single vote from player 001, the old man who Gi-Hun would later call Jiganbu. He broke the tie and sent them all home. But freedom outside just meant more debts, dying mothers, and no future for his daughter. Gi-Hun quickly realized that his real life was just a slower death. Almost everyone who voted to leave came back, unable to ignore the promise of riches if they won the games. Game 2 was Sugar Honeycomb. Gi-Hun picked the umbrella, the toughest shape to carve out of fragile Dalgona candy. By licking the back until it thinned, he managed to snap out the delicate shape seconds before time ran out. That night, the dorm turned into chaos when guards encouraged players to kill each other to thin the competition. Our protagonist, along with Sang-woo, Se-byuk, and Il-nam, fought desperately, stacking beds and barricading themselves against the slaughter happening all around them.
Do it.
The next game, Tug of War, put players on a steel platform suspended high above the ground. Gi-Hun's team of weaklings, consisting of the elderly Il-nam, frail Se-byuk, and untrained Ali, faced a squad of much stronger characters. It came down to two spur-of-the-moment decisions that narrowly prevented Gi-Hun's group from meeting a tragic end. The marble game then broke Gi-Hun's soul. Paired against his old pal Il-nam, who seemed lost in dementia, Gi-Hun lied to him, tricked him, and stole his marbles. A betrayal that would eat him up inside forever. He never forgot how Il-nam smiled and willingly handed over the marble, fully aware he was about to die.
Even. Odd.
Which one did you just say? Can you repeat what you said just now? I lost this one. We are Gambu, aren't we? Hey.
Glass stepping stones forced players to cross a bridge with alternating tempered and regular glass tiles. Step wrong and you fall to your death. Gi-Hun ended up last in the line, watching players ahead die one after another. Sang-woo showed his cold side by shoving a hesitant glass expert onto a panel, sacrificing him to save the group at the last moment. By the end, only Gi-Hun, Sang-woo, and Se-byuk survived, though Se-byuk was fatally wounded by flying glass shards, later executed by Sang-woo. The final game was the titular Squid Game, a brutal physical contest from their childhoods. Gi-Hun and Sang-woo fought in the rain, fists and knives flying harder than the storm itself. Gi-Hun overpowered him but refused to kill, instead trying to invoke the final clause, a joint decision to end the games. Sang-woo, unable to face what he'd done, stabbed himself in the neck and died at Gi-Hun's feet, from winner to avenger. Our protagonist stumbled back to the city to find his mother had died while he was away. The 46 billion won sat untouched in his bank account for a long time, toxic to him as blood money he felt undeserving of. For months, he drifted aimless and empty, until a gold card summoned him to a penthouse. There, Il-nam surprises him by not being dead after all, and reveals himself as the founder of the games, driven by boredom from having too much wealth. His actual death brought little comfort to G-Money or the viewers. Gi-Hun dyed his hair bright red, rejecting his former self, and made plans. On his way to America to reunite with his daughter Gi-Young, he spotted the recruiter playing with another desperate soul. At that point, rage took over. He grabbed the invitation card from the player and turned away from the boarding gate. The fight wasn't over. The next 2 years were pure obsession. The dude maniacally hunted down recruiters across subway platforms through the use of a private investigator. When he finally cornered the recruiter in a grim motel, a tense game of Russian roulette ended with the recruiter's corpse.
You roll over, heel, and wag your tail, because you're their fucking...
And a new gold card leading to another deadly tournament. After once again being knocked out, he woke up in a green tracksuit number 456 across his chest once more. Red light, green light repeated, and Gi-Hun shouted callouts to help strangers survive, but the guns still roared regardless. When the vote to leave tied, player 001, also known as the Big Daddy Frontman himself, tipped it toward continuing. The six-legged pentathlon chained teams through insane minigames. Survival was brutal, but even worse was Mingle, a chaotic game where failing to match numbers meant instant death. Alliances broke apart, trust vanished, betrayal was common. Thinking the guards were being stretched thin, G-Money rallied other players to revolt. They planned to storm the building and forcibly bring the games to an end, but Front Daddy crushed the rebellion in minutes, always being one step ahead. Gi-Hun's last friend, Park Jung-bae, died tragically. Did you have fun playing hero? The frontman sneered, making it clear that he had orchestrated Gi-Hun's success the entire time. Now our protagonist wages war on a system bigger than any single person. Every nightmare reminds him of Il-nam's betrayal, Sang-woo's suicide, and Jung-bae's blood being spilled instead of his own. Ending the Squid Game isn't a choice anymore. It's the only way forward. Things have to come to an end. But what exactly does that closing chapter look like? Let's take a glance at some of the theories about Gi-Hun's successes and failures. Possible triumphs. Some theories suggest Gi-Hun will survive a third season, but that victory wouldn't be about the money. His strategy has evolved dramatically since the first games. Early Gi-Hun just stumbled through survival, clinging to luck and kindness. Now he understands the system. He anticipates betrayals. He knows how the games twist not just bodies, but morals too. If he wins again, it'll be deliberate. Not for the prize, but to use his position as winner to tear down the organization from the inside. Maybe he'll try to join the organization like the frontman did after his own victory, attempting to destroy it from within. Another major idea is that our main man will expose the whole operation to the world. In Season 2, the clues are stacking. Detective Jun-ho is alive, secretly trying to make his way back to his brother. Fans think Gi-Hun and Jun-ho will team up, using some kind of secret broadcast to leak the games globally. Imagine the chaos if VIPs from powerful nations suddenly showed up unmasked on international news and the entire island was busted. Another powerful speculation centers on Gi-Hun's sacrifice. His bond with Jun-hee, the pregnant young woman from Season 2, 2 has much deeper meaning, according to these fans. Many theories suggest G-Money gives his life to save Junhee and her unborn child during a mass breakout, or even self-eliminating so she can win the final game. It would come full circle since Gi-Hun failed his own daughter when she needed him most, but he could finally protect another future. A bittersweet ending where he dies, but the next generation survives. Of course, not every road leads to victory. Some of the strongest theories predict Gi-Hun will fail to stop the Squid Game entirely. One brutal possibility is that the system is simply too massive. Front Daddy commands an army of loyal masked guards. The VIPs are likely protected by governments and offshore power structures, since nobody knows about their sinister and secretive sins. Even if Gi-Hun exposes them, the machinery behind the games could just restart somewhere else. If he dies, whether executed on camera or quietly eliminated during another game, it would send the ultimate message that courage alone can't bring down corruption. Another dark theory suggests Gi-Hun becomes the next Frontman. Several clues throughout Season 1 and 2 point to this. In-ho, the current Front Daddy, was once a champion. When victory didn't save him from despair, he got recruited into management. The same could happen to our protagonist. Maybe he gets captured and threatened with harm to save Byok's brother or Junhee's baby, or even his own daughter. Maybe, worn down by constant losses, he starts believing that controlling the games is better than letting someone worse do it. The same way that the Frontman has a twisted obsession with fairness in the games. There's another theory that Gi-Hun's failure will be more symbolic than literal. He could survive. He could even destroy one island, but the final scenes might show a new Squid Game rising somewhere else. New recruiters slapping down cards in Manila, London, Rio. The show could make it clear that desperation isn't just a Korean thing, and that wherever extreme wealth meets extreme poverty, someone will turn survival into entertainment. We also know that there's an American spin-off being made, more likely to be a continuation than a remake. This heavily reinforces this theory about global games, allowing Gi-Hun a short-term win, but showing that in the grand scheme of things, he accomplished nothing. Every tragic version of events reinforces one central idea. The Squid Game world isn't some alternate dystopia. It's our world, stripped of illusions. And whether Gi-Hun wins or loses, the ultimate truth remains that the biggest gamble isn't risking your life for money. It's risking your soul to save a world that might already be too far gone. That's the entire idea behind Squid Game. The deep and multi-layered commentary on society and how different aspects of it are so messed up. Both the Frontman and Gi-Hun have a very similar origin, and with the unknown of how the In-ho became the Frontman, it's very possible Gi-Hun will become the next. Gi-Hun has a crazy life. From seeing your friends die at work to being threatened by loan sharks, all the way till being in not one but 2 Squid Games. And his life is far from over. It made me wonder, what will the end of his story really be? Will these twisted games give him negative aura and turn him into a certified demon like Sang-woo and Front Daddy? Or will he have a happily ever after like Shrek and go and hang out in his swamp? I went through the entire show for the 5th time and have read over 1,000 books worth of theories to gather the best of the best. One of these is definitely how his story ends, and I even got some secret info from the cast. And in this video, I'm gonna take you through it all. Theory numero uno. Gi-Hun goes global. Some fans are thinking that the Big Daddy Frontman might actually want Gi-Hun to live through the new set of games, so that he can force him to go to America. Why would he want this? Well, there's 2 ways that this theory goes. One is pretty basic. He just wants Gi-Hun to go away and chill with his daughter, since that's a life that In-ho never got to live for himself. However, the second version is way more interesting. Even though the Frontman appears evil, he does try to keep the games fair, and steps in to correct obvious violations of the game's rules. So what if he's actually doing this job because it's in the best interest of the contestants? It definitely takes a twisted mind to run these games, so you can bet that the previous Frontman wasn't anywhere near as fair or give as many second chances. So what if, after seeing how cruel the previous organizers were, In-ho made the decision to dedicate himself to making the games as fair and balanced as possible to help the contestants survive? Maybe he'll give Gi-Hun the opportunity to win, so that his good heart, although tainted with darkness from what the Squid Games has done to him, can be fuel for him to find the American games and make them as fair as possible, whether it's as part of the mysterious organization, pretending to be a VIP, or even going as player 001. We know that an American spin-off is happening, directed by the guy who made Fight Club, so it needs to have a pretty explosive start if it wants to make the same impact that Squid Game had internationally. What if they do this by introducing Gi-Hun as a supporting character who helps from the shadows, or even serves as a spy to help somebody try to stop the Squid Games? There's a lot of potential here, but it's not quite as likely as our next tragic theory. Theory 2. Gi-Hun will die. We saw how ready Gi-Hun was to die in Season 2, willing to put his life on the line in order to perform his armed assault to try and stop the games. Even when he had nowhere to run and the Frontman aimed his gun at him point blank, G-Man just looked at him hatefully without showing any regret or fear.
456번. 잘 봐. 네 영웅놀이의 결과가.
He was completely ready to die for the cause, but of course, In-ho knew what would truly break him and killed his friend instead.
Gi-Hun아.
표식반.
Now that he's more full of anger than ever before, Gi-Hun won't hesitate to die in order to help others escape these sickening games. But the main question is not whether this will happen, but actually who he will die for. The most obvious choice, now that his childhood friend was killed, is player 222. Since she's pregnant, she has the biggest disadvantage in the games, and is the easiest target for people to mess with or try to get her eliminated. Maybe thanks to Gi-Hun and MG Coin, she'll make it to the final stages of the Squid Games, but has her life put on the line and requires Gi-Hun to sacrifice himself for her. The symbolism here would be pretty crazy. I mean, imagine G-Bro permanently abandoning his daughter, who he never treated well, in order to save the life of a young woman so that she can be a great parent to her own child. That's pretty deep, but it isn't the only possibility. Some other players like Yongsik and his mother, or even Daeho, are also contenders, since each of them have gotten to know each other a lot better than the average players have. Something we can be sure of is that the director will make this an incredibly sad scene if it does happen, since he loves pulling on our heartstrings for even the most minor characters. Gi-Hun's loss would need to be a major and emotional moment which needs a lot of justification for fans to stay sane and not hate the ending. But whatever happens, you can be sure it'll be a crazy roller coaster. Even if it does though, there's another theory so crazy that some fans might rage quit the whole franchise forever. Theory 3. Gi-Hun betrays the players. In an interview, the actor who plays Gi-Hun's best friend Jung-bae gave his own theory on what will happen to Gi-Hun, but it's shocking. He thinks that G-Man will become more hateful just like the frontman intended, but that instead of trying to take revenge on the organization, he now knows this is impossible and takes it out on the players instead, maybe even going to the extreme of killing some of the ones who voted to keep the games running. The actor also said that he thinks it would be most heartbreaking for his character to have Gi-Hun go all vengeful and spiteful towards the players because he knows that the front daddy is untouchable, which would be a total 180 turn for his character's morals and philosophy. But after everything he's been through, it's actually scarily believable for this to become true. I mean, think about it. If In-ho really wants to break Gi-Hun, maybe the best kind of result isn't him becoming the frontman, but instead turning him into a murderer. He was very happy when G-Money said he'd let some innocent people die in order for the revolt to have a high chance of success.
싸움이 끝날 때까지 참고 기다려야 합니다. 지금 이 인원보다 적은 숫자로는 그놈들을 이길 수가 없어요. 작은 희생은 감수하자는 건가요?
He even gave a creepy smile when he heard this. So think about how much happier that weirdo would be if Gi-Hun went on some kind of killing spree. There's still an old woman and a pregnant young girl in the games, both of which need protection if they want to succeed, especially since the violence-loving O's are now the majority of remaining players and have proven they can go on a crazy killing streak. Maybe in a twisted attempt to protect these weak and innocent players, Gi-Hun will lose his humanity by killing anyone who tries to get them eliminated from the games. This could be a stepping stone to a much darker side of him, who realizes that he enjoys the violence and starts targeting other players, ones who aren't hurting anybody and just want to stay safe. I know this might seem far-fetched, but the similarities between In-ho and Gi-Hun would also lend credit to this. I mean, think about it. In-ho entered the games as a loving family man who wanted to save his wife and unborn daughter.
저 와이프가 많이 아픕니다. 급성 간경화 때문에 간이식을 해야 되는. 근데 병원에서 검사를 받다가 뱃속에 애가 있는 걸 알게 됐어요. 병원에서 낙태를 하라고 와이프가 말을 한다. 죽더라도 애기를 낳겠다. 제 와이프가 고집이 세거든요. 제가 제 와이프 고집을 이겨본 적이 없어요. 이식할 간은 안 구해지. 와이프 상태는 나빠지고 돈 빌릴 수 있는 데까지 다 빌렸는데도.
Then he became the cruel frontman, who can kill people without caring or hesitating, and even shot his own brother. This would be a super crazy twist, but nowhere near as shocking as our final theory. Theory 4. G-Money becomes the frontman. One of the most popular and fascinating theories is that none other than G-Money himself will turn evil and become the next front daddy. On paper, this seems crazy, right? He went back into the games to save people and bring the sickening event to an end. Why would he ever help to keep them running? Well, there's actually a lot more evidence to support this theory than you'd think. The first and most obvious hint to this storyline is the similarities between Gi-Hun and In-ho. Before he was the frontman, In-ho took part in the Squid Games in order to get enough money to fund his pregnant wife's life-saving operation. But after winning the games and seeing hundreds of people die around him, he left with the money, only to hear that his wife and unborn child had passed away tragically. This sent him off the deep end, making him completely lose hope in humanity, which led to him becoming the frontman. Gi-Hun also entered the games in order to support his family, which he was unable to do because of the debt he got from gambling. The problem is, G-Money has never exactly been a great father. He always put himself and his pleasures ahead of his daughter, and this even extends to his decision to return to the Squid Games, pretty much abandoning her in another country. His entire purpose in doing this was to save people in the games by using his knowledge to their advantage.
지금부터 제가 하는 말 잘 들으세요. 이거 그냥 게임이 아닙니다. 게임을 하다 걸리면 죽습니다.
But that plan was completely ruined after the first game, since he'd never played any of the others. It's here that we see him slowly morph into a new character. He went from trying to save every life in the first episode to willingly letting people die in the finale. It's true he saw it as serving the greater good, so that most players could survive, but originally, he never intended to waste a single life. The Big Daddy frontman had been toying with him throughout the second season, trying to lead him down a darker path and influence his ideologies. After his experiences with the VIPs and watching the players in previous Squid Games, In-ho believes that humans are inherently greedy and are not worth saving. saving, which is a complete mirror to Gi-Hun's original philosophy. The writer and director of the show confirmed that they represent two different sides of the same coin, but that doesn't mean that they always will. Some of the marketing for season 3 has Gi-Hun wearing a black suit while In-ho wears a white one. This leads fans to speculate that Gi-Hun will embrace evil, while In-ho might actually end up regaining some faith in humanity, especially with his brother searching for him. Gi-Hun trusted player 001, even giving him what little ammunition he had left for the firearms they stole in the revolt.
바로 위에 있는 것 같은데 여기로는 못 올라가요. 여러분이 다른 루트를 찾아봐 주세요.
올라오면서 여기 구조를 훑어봤는데 겁니다. 여기서 두 분이 저놈들 시선을 꽉 좀 붙잡아 주세요.
잠깐만요. 자, 이거 가져가세요. 필요할 겁니다.
진짜 괜찮겠어요?
내가 단장 가져올 겁니다.
So the moment where he reveals himself to be the front daddy will definitely shock the G-Man and send him into a huge rage, probably unable to ever trust somebody again. Since In-ho executed Gi-Hun's closest friend in front of him, it's very possible that this will make Goku lose his sanity and see the world as evil. Another factor is the incredible reach of the organization. They seem to be able to do anything at any time without consequence, since In-ho very easily paid off the sea captain to ruin his brother's plot to find the Squid Game Island. Some theorize that it could be possible that the organizers of the Squid Games will kidnap or threaten Gi-Hun's daughter and use her life as a bargaining chip to make him run the Squid Games. This is especially possible if it turns out that the frontman's brother somehow finds him and turns him back to the light, or if In-ho somehow dies and a new front daddy needs to be crowned. This might be a crazy theory, but many fans out there believe it's certain to come in season 3, all the way from becoming the frontman to a tragic and heartbreaking death. These have been all Gi-Hun theories. If you want to see more theories, click the video on screen now.